The Dallas Cowboys hire Brian Schottenheimer, and some crazy, crazy information that I figured out about his offense. Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business and let's wake up the football gods. How's everybody doing on this Sunday? It's the Pro Bowl. Oh my God, it is the Pro Bowl today. I know you don't want to miss the flag football game. Still debating on whether or not I actually want to live stream that, but here's the reality of it. Flag football today, I almost forgot. There's a Super Bowl next weekend, and the Dallas Cowboys have been making moves. Let's actually listen to ESPN and their take this morning real quick.
Before last season, now, his previous stops various places in the league, Jacksonville, Seattle, Indy, with the Jets, among others. He replaces Kellen Moore, who's headed to the Chargers after 4 years in Dallas. So, Jeremy, the dynamic now, what's that going to be like between Mike McCarthy, the head coach, and now Brian Schottenheimer as your OC?
Well, this is Mike McCarthy's show now. He's going to be calling the plays. So Mike McCarthy and the Dallas staff wanted to bring somebody in who would create support, organization, sort of run things day to day. But on Sunday, it's going to be that man right there, Mike McCarthy. And so even though he and Kellen Moore worked well together for 3 years and put up a lot of points and yards, Mike McCarthy inherited Kellen Moore when he took over 3 years ago. So there were some philosophical differences that were inherent. And so now McCarthy has somebody that he can trust, somebody who he's worked with before. In 1998, they were on the same Kansas City Chiefs staff back in the day. So they have some major history together.
And one of them has won a Super Bowl since then, and that would be Mike McCarthy with the Packers. We'll see if that success.
I will also say that you have to put in other ties, because Brian Schottenheimer's father, Marty Schottenheimer, was basically the coaching tree that Mike McCarthy is under. So when you think about him being tied to the family, he's family. Now let's understand a couple things here. First of all, when Mike McCarthy came here, I thought we were going to be going to the West Coast offense immediately. That, Kellen Moore would be deferring to Mike McCarthy, who was designing the offense to suit him. No disrespect to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore and our offense that we've been running has been great as a regular season offense. And you can say the same thing about this offense throughout Scott Linehan and as well as Jason Garrett. Look, I almost forgot the name Jason Garrett. If I could forget the name Jason Garrett, I'd be a happy man. But the thing about our offense that happened was, come playoff time, for whatever reason, the wheels would always fall off the bus. We just had problems in the playoffs. And for me, one of the problems we had, and you can look back last year and this year to the numbers. I don't have this year's numbers on the running game, but it was terrible. Once Tony Pollard got hurt, we could not run the football. And problems with that aren't solely the running back. It's also the offensive line. It's the play design. It's the play calling and so forth. And the Cowboys become, in playoffs, one-dimensional without being able to run the football. Balance is the key. And as much as you say, Troy Aikman, if we only had a Troy Aikman or a Roger Staubach, understand that both of those teams were able to really run the ball with generational running backs. That running the ball was as important as what Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach did. The problem with Tony Romo and Dak Prescott is become clear. Being able to run the ball when things get tight in the playoffs. It's the truth. It's the truth. Now, the thing about it is it doesn't have to be, per se, a bellwether running back in today's football. We've seen how Kansas City and the Eagles have done it kind of by committee. They're not committing big boatloads of money on a running back to, carry the load. In fact, if you look at the teams that are paying the most for running backs, they're not the ones that are winning Super Bowls. They're just not. So this is the formula that we got to start understanding. Now, we've all known Mike McCarthy is one of those guys who really doesn't like to run the football per se when he was at Green Bay. But that's kind of a misnomer because it's an evolution of the running game. Because what it's predicated on is using short, quick passes as an elongated, say, handoff. Screen passes to running backs, so you're getting them the ball. It's technically a pass, but really like pitching the ball to them outside where they've got space to maneuver. And that's predicated, that is what the West Coast offense is predicated on. Now, so I was going through the numbers today, looking at Russell Wilson when Brian Schottenheimer for 3 years was the offensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer, 2018, 2019, and 2020 was the offensive coordinator for Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. So here's what's interesting. Was Brian Schottenheimer, again, his father being Marty Schottenheimer, which was always Marty ball, where they just ran the hell out of the football. Looking at the statistics for Russell Wilson, he ended up being more efficient with the football, okay? Now, when I say that, it reminds me of actually what happened with Tony Romo, but I'll get back to that in a second. 2017, 61% completions, okay? 3,983 yards, 34 TDs, 6.1 TD percentage, okay? Which was really good, TD percentage-wise. And let me get the yards per average. And his yards per average, 7.2, okay? Very good numbers, okay? And only 11 interceptions. Now, check this out. Brian Schottenheimer becomes the offensive coordinator. His completion percentage goes up by 4.3. His yards drop down by 500 yards, okay? But he gets one more touchdown, and his yard average per completion goes up by 9/10, almost a full yard. So we're looking at that and saying, he's not having to throw the ball as much. He's getting more yards per completion, and he's getting more touchdowns. The next year, his yardage went actually up to one of the highest it had been in his career. But, for 4,110 yards, 66.1% completion percentage. His TD percentage went down a little bit because he only had 31 TDs, but only had 5 interceptions, and still 8 yards, a monster 8 yards per completion. His final year as the offensive coordinator, they went 12-4, 4,200 yards passing. 4,212, the second highest of his career. 40 TDs. 40 TDs. He did have 13 interceptions, but I'll take 13 interceptions with 40 TDs and 7.5 yards per completion. So the assumption would be is, well, if they're increasing the passing yardage, then they must be reducing the run. We're putting it all on Russell Wilson. Actually, I was surprised by what actually happened, because if we look at the team statistics here, and actually I love Pro Football Reference. If you want some statistics, go to them, because it's consistent and it's really easy to work with. See, I can just back up to each of the years just by, boom, previous year. If we look at where they were offensively as a team in 2017, they were 11th in scoring offense. I've lost where I was. Let's see. They were 11th in scoring offense, 15th in yardage, right? they had 3,600 passing yards, and they had 1,629 rushing yards for a 4-point yard average running the football. 4 yards per carry. And here's what's amazing. Brian Schottenheimer comes in. They go to 6th in scoring offense. They did back up in total yards because, again, we were talking about Russell Wilson's passing yards going down but being more efficient. But here's the thing. They're running the football. They ran the ball better. They ended up bumping it up by 200 yards and going from 4 yards per carry to 4.8 yards a carry. And now this is really key here, because if we go to the next year, we have Russell Wilson with 4,200 yards passing, but we increased almost another 100 yards per year in running the football at 1,883 and 4.9 yards a carry. Finally, the last year that he was there, they had the most yards that they had in running the football since basically beast mode. 1,971 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. See, this is the thing. This is the thing. You can go back to the Dallas Cowboys and Tony Romo. And back during Tony Romo's career, the problem for us, which is the same problem we have now, is we were either living and dying by Tony Romo's arm, because we couldn't run the ball. And when teams know that you running the football is not really something we have to cover, it's easier to stop the pass. It just is. And that, my friends, was the problem. That was the problem we have as we're going into the playoffs. But this, with Brian Schottenheimer, at least here with the Seattle for those 3 years, made the offense more efficient. The yards per completion went up. The yards per rush went up. And here's the thing. One of the big knocks on what we have with our offense with Kellen Moore, who's the comeback route, the curl route, the stop routes, is you don't get extra yards per completion. See, the West Coast is predicated on giving the ball, maybe shorter routes, but giving the ball to the playmakers in space where they're moving body towards a touchdown alley, TDA, as opposed to me coming back to the quarterback opposite of the direction I want to go. And hence, the Dallas Cowboys are one of the poorest teams in yards after completion. Take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, that with Deebo Samuels, he's getting the ball and running before he's got contact up the field, which makes him harder to bring down. And understand, if you pick up a yard or two here, more on each play, that's less yards that I got to get on second down, on third down, or maybe it's a first down. And it keeps the ball moving. So this, for me, one, just having a change and saying, Mike McCarthy, you are the guy who's in the sights. This is your show. You run this thing the way you want to. You have the latitude to bring in the guys that will help teach what you're doing and so forth, and understand your philosophy, that you're not kind of letting Kellen Moore hang himself. That now everybody is on the same team on the offense, because there was a riff in differences with Kellen Moore. And let's be clear, there was. But Mike McCarthy knew, I have to let Kellen Moore fail in the Joneses' eyes to be able to do it my way. So instead of trying to fight Kellen Moore and make him change and do all this, where Kellen Moore could say, I couldn't run it the way I want to because Mike McCarthy's in the way, you pushed Kellen Moore out there and said, it's you. Jerry, you want him, you got him. And when we have the same result back to back, even though Jerry Jones needs to take some of that blame, Kellen Moore's the one that's gone, and it's now Mike McCarthy's show. So that's what I have for you this morning. If you're still here listening to this, I'm going to have a premiere, I think, about 6 o'clock tonight. There's been a lot of ugliness on YouTube, There's been people who have made assumptions about me. There have been trolls that say that Mark Holmes is a thief or steals content, or, you know, and it's just hate. So much hate out there. And I'm going to tell you that the hate doesn't belong over here. Where the hate belongs is the people that stir this shit up. We need to put the hate where the hate really belongs. And so I'm confronting it one-on-one. One-on-one. And so tonight, 6 o'clock, we got the rope-a-dope. We're going to deal with one of these issues tonight. I hope you tune in, because I'm going to fix this shit. All right, good people. You know how we roll. I got shit to do.
Coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching.
Peruvian chicken tonight. Yeah, I got to go season my chickens.